Thinking of making the move to Huntersville, North Carolina, but you're not sure if it's the best move for you and you want to know more? Well, you've come to the perfect video for this. I'm going to go through everything, the good and the bad about Huntersville, North Carolina, so you can make an educated decision before making the move. Now, stick around to the very end because I'm going to give you the number one biggest reason why you need to be living in Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm Kaila 𝗖𝘁, and if you're looking for everything Charlotte, North Carolina, the ins, the outs, and everything in between, you've come to the right channel. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on everything Charlotte, even the things you didn't know you needed to know. Now, I work here in the area and I get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites every single day from people just like you, looking to move to the Charlotte, North Carolina, and South Carolina areas. Well, if that's you, all of my information is in the description below, whether it's 9 days or 90 days from now, whether you're moving across the world, across the country, or just across town, we're here to make your move exactly what you want it to be. Now, let me dive into our video for today because we have so much to cover. Huntersville, North Carolina. Huntersville sits just north of Charlotte, just on the outskirts of the 485 belt. In fact, it touches 485. This town consists of over 63,000 people as of the 2022 census and was founded in 1873. Now, since its inception, it's been one of the fastest growing towns in North Carolina, mostly due to its proximity to Charlotte, North Carolina, but also due to the many features that it offers those who live there. The downtown Huntersville area is full of unique shopping experiences, as well as events and festivals that come throughout the year. You're never going to find a weekend where there's not something to do and check out. In addition, it's also known for its many outdoor activity options, such as going to Lotta Plantation, the Raptor Center, and several others. You're never going to be bored when you're living in the Huntersville area. So let's dive right in and start with our first point. This is a pro, and we're talking about crime rates. Now, I know you're wondering, Kaila, how could a crime rate be a good thing? Well, when the crime rates are lower than the US average. Violent crime in Huntersville is at 12.2, whereas the national average is at 22.7, making it much lower than the US. Property crime is also lower, sitting at 29.3, whereas the US average is at 35.4. Now, this particular kind of crime is talking about burglary and theft and those kinds of things. But here's one other thing to think about. Huntersville has been expanding, and because it touches Charlotte, we're going to have a little bit of overflow of not only population, but sadly, a little bit of crime. The cool thing to know is the fact that Huntersville is still lower than the US average and still lower than many of the areas of Charlotte. Huntersville remains a safe place to live with a strong sense of community and lower rates than most of the other US cities. Let's jump into our first downside to living in Huntersville. And this has to do with cost of living. That's right, the cost of living in Huntersville is higher than the US average by 2.5%. Now, although it's higher than the US average, where it counts, it's actually lower. Healthcare, utilities, and transportation are lower than the US average, making Huntersville still a great place to live. Now, one thing to take into account is the fact of the proximity to Charlotte. And with this, you're gonna have a lot of the advantages of Charlotte without the cost. In fact, you're gonna have short drive times into Charlotte, restaurants, dining, healthcare, hospitals, and more available to you at your fingertips, but without the same costs as living in Charlotte. So that is a major benefit. Let's talk about our next pro, and this has to do with commute times. Now, that's not something you usually hear, right? Commute times and traffic, it's usually a con. Well, when it comes to Huntersville, this is actually on the good side of the spectrum. Why? Because you can expect lesser commute times than many of the other areas of Charlotte. Here's why. Huntersville, as I mentioned, is sitting just at the north of Charlotte, right off 485. Meaning you have multiple access points to 485 as well as I-77, giving you a lot of different options to get to and from work or play. Commute times to uptown Charlotte from Huntersville range between 20 and 25 minutes depending upon where you live, and with traffic, that could jump to 30 to 35 minutes. Now, granted, we've all hit a major traffic jam before with an accident, and of course this throws it completely out of the water when it comes to timing. But we're talking about averages. What can you expect for a daily commute? Now, in addition to that, if you're going to other areas of town, such as Kannapolis or all the way down to Fort Mill, you have the opportunity to take 485 or back roads wherever you need to go, depending on your final location. In addition to all this, I-77 runs right up the center of Huntersville. Now there's gonna be a little bit more of Huntersville to the west than to the east, but I-77 goes right up the middle. Now with that, you also have an optional toll lane. Now this toll lane, like I said, optional, allows you 2 lanes for the toll and 2 lanes without the toll. So if you start seeing things back up for an exit or two, you can pop on for an exit and pop back off, saving you time, but it also will cost you money. Now, I definitely frequent the toll lane, especially in real estate. I'm going up and down to Mooresville, Denver, you name it. So it is extremely advantageous to have that available to me, especially if I'm trying to make it there on time. Now in Huntersville, about 80% of folks actually use their own personal vehicle without carpooling or anything like that to get to and from work. And surprisingly, about 9% of the population actually work from home and aren't hitting the roads during those peak hours at all. The cool thing is, although we've had an influx of individuals moving to the area, we're not seeing as crazy of an increase in traffic as you probably would expect, because many of the people moving here are still working remote. Now let's talk about our next con, and this has to do with school ratings. I know this is probably going to knock it off of many of your lists, but the school ratings are not nearly as great as what you would hope for. The schools range from a score of 4 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. However, the high schools are where you're going to have your lowest scores, 4 out of 10 and 5 out of 10. Now the nice thing is the elementary and middle schools do have some great options ranging from 7 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 scores, but for the majority of people that are sending their kiddos to high school, if they're concerned about those ratings, they tend to lean more towards charter schools or one of the more popular private schools in the area called the South Lake Academy. South Lake Academy accepts students from K through 12. It's actually quite a sizable school located just on the south side of Lake Norman. The South Lake Academy, on average, tuition ranges about $14,000 per student, and they do offer scholarships. So if you're thinking about Huntersville and you're kind of concerned with the schools, this may be a great opportunity to get into the area and go ahead and apply for those charter schools to get your student exactly where they need to be. Now, all of this being said, schools are not something that slow most of my clients, friends, and ourselves down from enjoying all that Huntersville has to offer. So let's jump back to the pros, all right? You guys know I like to do this, a little bit of con, a little bit of pro. Let's jump back into the pros, and that has to do with the economy. The unemployment rate in Huntersville is at 4.5, which is outpacing and better than the US average of 6%. While there has been a job decrease this year of over 5.6%, which falls in line with a lot of the rest of the nation, the future job growth over the next 10 years is expected to be at 45.6%, which will outpace the US average of 33.5%, making this a great place to live and grow, especially if you have a business or are looking for work in the future. Now, the median household income in Huntersville is at about $102,000. Meanwhile, the national average is at $69,000. One thing to take note when we're taking a look, of course, at jobs as well, is that the regions surrounding Charlotte are very high for commute. That's right, those that live in a specific town don't normally work in that town. And some of the more popular industries in Huntersville are healthcare, finance, and science and technical. So if you're doing a different kind of job or a different industry, you might find yourself in another area of Charlotte. It doesn't necessarily mean the decrease in jobs is a bad thing. It just means that jobs are in other towns. Let's jump back into a con. Now, this one's interesting. Could be a pro, could be a con. I'll let you decide, and it might depend upon what stage of the process you're in. It's home costs. That's right, the cost to purchase a home in Huntersville. Now, the median home sales price in Huntersville as of July 2024 was $528,000. Now, this is a 1.6 increase from last year's numbers, which is showing us that the economy is remaining steady and strong. Now, Charlotte and the surrounding areas in the region have seen an increase of over 6.5% year over year, meaning Huntersville is running a little bit behind the rest of the pace of the Charlotte and surrounding markets. While Huntersville's median sales price is $528,000, the US median sales price is at $430,000. So it's definitely much more expensive to buy a house than the rest of the US average. So how is this a con? Well, if you're coming to the Charlotte area and you want to be in Huntersville, you're going to expect to pay higher than the US average. But here's where it's a pro. We're seeing consistent growth in the sales prices of these homes. What that means is steady growth, steady equity, and a good investment for you if you're looking to make a purchase in the Huntersville area. If you are, go ahead and check out my information in the description below and I'll be sure to help you with that. When it comes to my clients looking in the Huntersville area, making a purchase of a home, it really comes down to a few simple facts. These prices that you're seeing of that $528 median is still outpacing and still more affordable than many of the other popular areas of Charlotte. Meanwhile, you still get the proximity and way more property than you would have ever expected. So I think it's a pro. For some, it's a con. I'll let you decide. And a pro, the weather. I love the weather. Now, if you've ever seen any of my videos about Charlotte, the weather is pretty much the same as Huntersville. It's only a few miles north. But let me give you a little bit of a snippet of what it's like to live throughout the seasons in Huntersville, North Carolina. That's right, in Huntersville, North Carolina, you're gonna get all 4 seasons. That's the changing of the leaves in fall, the cool mornings of winter, and of course the sweet smells in spring and summer. The cool thing about this is you're gonna get all of that without any of the extremes. No extreme weather except for some thunderstorms. That's right, we don't get hurricanes, we don't get tornadoes, we don't get earthquakes, we don't get floods. Now I say all of those things and someone in the comments is gonna say, yes you do. I remember back in, that's right, hurricanes, Hugo, 1989. Last time we ever had anything that damaged us from a hurricane. Tornadoes, that's right. There was a teeny tiny little one that was in Raleigh at one time, but we don't get tornadoes. Earthquakes, California, I don't even want to hear it. We had an earthquake all the way up in the mountains in, I think it was Bat Cave back in 2006. We didn't even feel it. And let's talk about those pesky floods. Yes, we do get a lot of rain, but even in one of the most substantial rainstorms that we got just a few months ago, there were some areas that did see water, but it wasn't widespread flooding. What we did see is that our creeks and riverbeds rose, but homes even in flood zones still didn't see the substantial water that was even expected and didn't even get damaged to their homes in most cases. So it's definitely a great place to live for weather. Winter temperatures during the day, you're gonna see 51 to 55 as an average. And in summer, you're gonna see beautiful weather between 80 and 90 degrees with evenings between 65 to 69. Yes, I love summer. Can you tell? One thing you're not gonna see, however, is snow. We don't get snow. We just don't. Last time we had snow was back in 2014 and we got 8 inches. So if you're coming from up north, go ahead, sell your snowblower, sell your snow shovel, get rid of your snow boots. You don't need your parka. All you need is a nice heavy sweater, unless you're me and you're gonna wear a big wool jacket because you're always cold. Anyway, I'll let you decide. Now you stuck around to the very end and I always appreciate you guys making comments. So if you do have comments, drop them below, but I have a bonus piece for you. And here's the bonus, and it's a pro. The proximity to Charlotte. You get everything in Huntersville that you could possibly want. You get the sense of community, you get the houses a little bit more spread out, you have these beautiful nature centers and preserves, access to Lake Norman, but you also get access to the city. That's right, you can be downtown in 20 minutes or uptown. By the way, it used to be called downtown until they decided that that didn't sound nice and then they turned it into uptown. So I'm right, whether I say up or down, it technically was. Anyway, you're also really close to be able to access places like Plaza Midwood, also going to South Boulevard, South End, anywhere you want to go, including the South Park Mall. Yes, everything's south, but it's still in close proximity. In addition to that, you also get easy access to 3 different malls: North Lake Mall, the Concord Mills Mall, and if you go right next to where you are in Huntersville, you've also got Birkdale Village. There's Trader Joe's, there's every grocery store you could possibly want, restaurants, yes, Target, and even Costco and Sam's Club, all right by you. It is literally the perfect town to live in, and that is why I feel like Huntersville is the #1 town outside of Charlotte. So I'll let you make your decision. I know I gave you a lot of information and there's even more to dig up. So drop some comments below. I want to hear from you. I want to know your questions. And be sure to like and subscribe. If you got value out of this video, I want you to see more content from me and I want to connect. So like and subscribe. And of course, if you are making the move, I really do get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites. I list and help you buy houses. But here's the thing, I want to help you make the move to the Charlotte area. All of my information is in the description below. Give me a call, a text, an email, whether it's 9 days or 90 days from now that you're moving across the world, across the country, or just across town. We're here to make your move exactly what you want it to be. So, until next time, I look forward to showing you around town. So you're making the move. There's a lot of videos that you can be watching, like this one right here, or maybe even this one. Really either one of these, but honestly, watch both of them because they're going to help you make the move. Go ahead, pick one. They're both really good.